recording. Okay, welcome everybody. I am Shelby McDaniel. I am here with the lovely Laini. She has been gracious enough to spend time with me here today after going through a Diet Freedom program to share her experience and really share her journey, because that is definitely what she's been on. And I'm on a high right now. We've been talking before we started recording, so I'm already giddy and excited. So let's welcome Laini to everyone, and thank you for sharing your story today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes. So, all right, well, let's just go way back. This was months ago, right, that you had came to me. And so what were your initial goals coming to me in the first place? Like, what was going on that you were like, all right, I got to do something? What were your initial goals?
So my initial goals were to lose weight, right? I lost my dad, maybe 2 months prior to contacting you, and life was a mess. So I figured, well, this is the best way to kind of get some control my eating, because I knew I was eating to compensate for the emotions that I was experiencing. So I'd known you before you got me back on track once, and I knew you had the personality, since I'm a strong-headed person, to get me back on track again. So it was really to kind of cut the emotional ties from eating and what I was going through, and really to lose weight, because I had gained weight.
Yeah.
Those were initially going in. Like, Shelby can get me back on track. So we're
right.
going to call it.
And so did you think I was just going to give you a meal plan and do it old school style?
Oh, yeah. I expected max muscle virtue. That's what I expected.
Yep.
Totally surprised with what I got. But I'm like, okay, you're going this route. We'll do this whole mental, emotional thing. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, because
at first, but I trusted you, so I was like, we're gonna go this route and see where it takes me.
Right. And I think that's a lot of people, we know what we know and we don't know what we don't know. And it's okay. So a lot of people, when they're looking to get control with their eating, they think, okay, I need to set more rules. I need to get strict with my diet. I need to cut this. I need somebody to tell me what to do.
Right.
And that always backfires, because you still kind of end up in the same spot where you're really not in charge. Like you're just following other people's orders, which we can do for a certain amount of time, but then something comes up, or you get sick of the food, or you worry, you think about food too much, and it just, at some point falls apart.
Yep.
Yeah. So when you were talking to me, when our initial consult, you were explaining some of the struggles that you were having, and one was definitely the emotional eating. But, I knew, because for people that are still getting to know me, whenever we worked together last, I didn't have the skill sets that I do today. I mean, it was kind of your basic, here's what you learned, when you went to school for your nutrition, here's what you do with clients. It was just like the basics of teaching about food and keeping people accountable, the things that everybody teaches. And I mean, we had great results, but I didn't have any skill sets at the time about how to really deal with binging and emotional eating. And so I knew, just from your history, and thinking back, like how we worked together, and here we are today. And when we were talking in our consultation, I knew that, okay, there's some root issues that a meal plan is not going to, absolutely help you. And you watch the video, the emotional eating video, remember? And you're like, oh yeah, that's me. And I knew this is what you needed. So you came in thinking, okay, I think I need this, but I'm like, no.
No, yeah.
You don't need that. You don't need that. So it was mostly, was it mostly just the emotional eating? Were there other things, like, were there other obstacles, other challenges besides the emotional eating that you felt?
So I think I mentioned lack of consistency. I think I tried every diet and plan under the sun, right? And to be honest, the last one I tried was, I always say it wrong, isogenics, or whatever.
Yeah.
I can do this. My friends are doing this. It'll get me back on track. But 2 weeks into it, maybe a month, I was like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Something would trigger, and I go back to my old ways. So to be honest, I just got, as they say, cliche, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I'm like, we're going to stop this down.
Yeah.
I don't want to live like this anymore.
You
And I
know,
have to say, with my father passing with a massive heart attack, it was health. I wanted to get healthy.
yeah.
You know, I wasn't really looking for a number. I just wanted to be healthy, right? Wasn't living a healthy lifestyle.
I mean, we'll get into your journey here, which is amazing. Did you
Mhm.
did you feel like, I mean, at the time we were reconnecting, we knew we wanted to lose weight, you knew you wanted to be healthy. Did you come to that kind of bridge where you're like, did you realize you needed to do some just personal development, like work on you, kind of self-love, or were you not there yet, but then discovered that's something that you needed to
So
do
no, when we
throughout?
first had our consultation, I wasn't there yet.
Okay.
Um, I would say, I think it was week 2 in it
Mm-hmm.
when I was reading those articles, and I think I told you one of the articles with emotional eating, and it went
Mm-hmm.
back to my mother and childhood and how I associated food, and I thought, oh boy, we got some problems here. You know, we got a problem because
Mm-hmm.
so related to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't realize that the article basically said that if your mother or whoever your guardian was didn't cook, right, wasn't on a routine, 3 meals a day, you didn't know where your next meal was coming from, you tended to overeat in the meal that you knew was happening,
Mm-hmm.
and hoard food and stuff like that. Oh, let me keep a bar here. Let me do this. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized, oh my God, that's what I'm doing. If I knew I wasn't going to eat dinner, I'd inhale food at lunch
Right.
to compensate for not having dinner. And that, I know we shouldn't use the word habit, but I guess that behavior formed early,
Sure. Mm-hmm.
early. And that's when I knew, okay, this is going to be a journey. This is
Mm-hmm.
more of an emotional, mental journey that I have to go on. And it's not about, like I told you, I wasn't going to McDonald's and
Right. No, you weren't.
all of that stuff. I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
And you knew about food. You knew about
I knew
nutrition.
about food. I could
You could
create a
be
meal
like,
plan.
I was just gonna say you can create a meal plan.
But
Yes.
what I couldn't do was I couldn't follow it. I couldn't be
Right.
consistent. Um,
Yeah.
so I know it probably shouldn't go forward, but right now I can say food ruled my life then, whereas it doesn't anymore.
Yeah. And it's hard to see it maybe at the time of how much you're
Mhm.
thinking about food. I was just talking to a new client who just joined the Diet Freedom program yesterday, and we were just, as we were talking, she kept saying, "Oh my gosh, like you're making me think like how much I'm really thinking about food, and I can't believe I'm really thinking about that." And
Yep.
I was there too. That's, we've all been there, where you're like
Mhm.
totally invested into that world, and it's your normal, and you don't even
Yep.
realize it until like
Yep.
somebody's like, "Yo, hello, like can you see how much you're thinking about it?" and like pluck you out, so you
Mhm.
can look at it kind of objectively. It is always eye opening.
Very eye opening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very eye opening.
So you realize things really went way back, that kind of really started to formulate how you thought about food, how you
Right.
acted around food.
Mhm.
What were some other things that that you can recall, and that you're willing to share, of course, that needed tending to as well, in relation to why you ate, or your triggers, your decision making about what you eat? I mean, we go through all of that training to help you kind of be your own expert in those areas and do some digging. What were some other connections that you made? I know that's a really big question, but
It
anything
is,
you're willing
but
to
one of
share?
the questions, I lead a stressful life, so
Yeah.
stress caused me to eat, whether it be, someone gets on your nerves that day, stressful work, you reach, I would reach for the chocolate or reach for something, just something I shouldn't be eating, whether I was hungry or not hungry. So I had to realize I had to control my emotions. That food, and I know you use this, but I use it a lot because it kind of keeps me on track. Food is for fuel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Food is to keep you going, not to make you feel better, right? You need
Mm-hmm.
to focus on that emotion, whether it's anger or sadness, lonely, depression, whatever it is, right? Food's not going to solve that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've made some mistakes where I inhaled the chocolate and got sick. After, and I'm thinking, "Oop, this is not what I wanted to do," right? Turn your focus to the emotion and whatever
Mm-hmm.
that trigger is for that emotion of the day. Um, so that's one of them. But I would say the biggest one So for anyone out there listening at the end of this, going along the journey, people supporting you and people not supporting you, still struggling with that to this day, right? Still making mistakes and getting back up, going, nope, don't do that. But you gotta recognize everybody's not gonna be your number one supporter. You gotta support yourself. So
That's a
that's a
big one.
major, how can I put it? Major change I'm still going through. I think I'm better now.
Oh yeah, definitely. You were
But I
really
can say
pissed.
last week, there was another incident, Shelby, and I had to really kind of use the tools from the video to go, no, this is this, don't eat that, kind of fall back to the training. But it's still a struggle. That's still my number one struggle.
Yeah. So, what, for anyone that's just, I know what you're talking about, but it is eye-opening. When we use food as a discussion point, you open up, not necessarily in a painful way, but you're aware in other areas of your life about people and events and in your past, and you're just, you're very observant, and you really start to find yourself, if that makes sense again. Because you're starting to put yourself first, and you're starting to listen to those needs, and you're starting to make decisions and stepping up and owning it and saying, you know what, that doesn't work for me, or that does work for me, or I need a little bit more of this or a little less of this. And along that comes people too. And so, we've had many discussions, you and I, about the people like that are, whether they're family or coworkers or just friends or whomever, that it's sometimes, like you said, your biggest supporters can change, and it's unfortunate, but many times when you are looking to grow and expand and continue your path of personal development, which truly allows you to live the life that you want. You just got back from Alaska, which we were just talking about. You would have never gone to Alaska before, never. So like, you start to do these things, and people who are used to seeing you maybe be a pushover or say yes or not say anything, they're like, whoa, what are you doing? And sometimes they give you some crap. And that's when that's the battle that you mentioned you struggle with, and so many people do, is how do you deal with that? It's a little, it is, it makes you mad, because you're like, why can't you just support me? But it happens, and that's the part of this process that some people go through, is you do embrace sometimes new support communities, but it's the people that you are surrounding you grow to have this group of people that really does truly support you. So even though you filter out people that maybe don't along the way, you gather more people that do, and it just ends up, again, adding to that quality of life and being in a place in your life that really does work for you. So it's it's kind of uncomfortable as sometimes it can be. It truly does have its worth and reward when it's all said and done. But it is a process that many people go through. And like we talked, one of my mentors, I think everybody needs a mentor. I have a mentor. One of my mentors said, with new levels comes new devils. And I shared that with you, and isn't that the truth?
That is the truth.
But you're going to be the one at the end of all of this, 20 years from now, looking back and be like, man, what an incredible life I've been living. And other people who don't choose to grow.
I've been thinking it.
There's going to be, there's unfortunately too many people that they just don't want to do that, because there's this wall of fear, this wall of doubt, this wall of unpredictability, and they don't want to push through that wall. But right at the other side of that wall is this life that you truly want, and that's what you broke through. That's really what you broke through, which is amazing. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something I wanted to bring up.
So the other thing I want to bring up again is the scale. Remember, that was my I don't know, last time I've been on it.
Good girl.
It went from every day, maybe twice a day, to a couple times a week, to I think it's growing desks now.
Yep.
So,
and we're no longer like relying on analytics, right? We're not relying on the scale. We're just like doing our thing. It's feeling a lot more normal, right?
life is normal now. So
Yeah.
food is just to keep me going. I don't constantly go, I don't know, how can I put this? It's not like I can go to restaurants now and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get, you know, fish and broccoli, right? Water, maybe unsweetened tea, and enjoy the lunch or the dinner or whatever I'm doing. And I think about food. Food is less than what it used to be. I would have
Yeah.
to go, in the beginning I would say, all right, what restaurant are we going to? Look at the menu, right? This whole like litany of things I
Am I
would do.
allowed to do this? Yeah.
Exactly. Does
Mhm.
this fit? Does this not fit? It's just not important anymore, right?
Mhm.
It's not
Mhm.
important.
I love that.
Because I know when I'm hungry, I know when to stop,
Yeah.
right? Um, do I have chocolate every now and then? Yeah, but it's not the 5 pieces because somebody pissed me off, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, I want a piece. And the other thing, my coffee thing, right? I'm ever trying to get off caffeine, and I'm like, no, I kind of like this. So I went to decaf, cream only. You just find ways to make it work.
To still choose foods that you love and not have to restrict. I think that's the
Mhm.
most exciting thing is you can just like go and try recipes now that you want, like just freely do it. Like
So
no
yes,
worry.
I'm waiting for my son to get out the house, and then yes, once I move in next Friday, that is the plan.
Nice. That's awesome. That's great. So, so any of, I mean, this is like surface level, really, what we're talking about when it comes to your journey that you've been through just in the last 12 weeks. When it comes to where you started and where you are now. I mean, your whole outlook on food has changed. Your whole outlook seems like on just your personal life and what you want to do
So my
is
whole outlook
changing.
on life has changed.
Yeah,
Definitely. hmm
yeah, absolutely. What are some of your
Walking
future
with the air of
goals?
confidence that I don't think I had before, which is throwing a lot of people off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. But you're not getting distracted by it. At least you're not allowing them to hold you down, and you're not living there. It might strike you at first. It's easy to do, but you have learned to really manage your mindset, and that's something
Yes,
that we've always
agreed.
talked about
Great way
is
to put it.
it's not just about learning about mindful eating or your hunger
Mhm.
cues. It's how do
Yep.
you like stay in this space where it's like
Yes.
you can kind of reprogram your thinking, and so your urges become basically non-existent. But then when you have these triggers or you have this frustration and that default thinking does want to pop up because your brain's your brain, how do you manage that? And you're like totally rocking that.
Yeah, you start to begin to say, I don't want to live in that old space again.
Right.
It's just not a place I want to be anymore. I like this new space. So like
Mhm.
I told you last week, I mean, I think I was down 2 days, but I got back up.
Mhm.
I think two
Mhm.
days is good compared to like weeks
Mhm.
before,
Oh
right?
yeah. Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I think something, that I did mention earlier, it just popped in my head now, so I'm probably jumping around, but you know, when you came to me, I always say one of the biggest steps to success that anyone that goes through this program has to go through is not just getting the right strategy, which I provide you, but you have to be ready. It has to be, you have to get the right strategy at the right time. Because if you weren't like at that fork in the road, or you're like at the edge of the cliff and you're like, it's this, or I don't know what I'm going to do, you have to
Yeah.
be at that point to accept this process because it is going to be
hmm
challenging. I mean, it's an empowering process. We're talking about some pain points, of course, but it's a very positive and empowering process that you go through.
Yeah.
And you have to, when you're up against that uncomfortable feeling, something that's going to challenge you, because that's going through that is what's going to get you where you want to be. When you're in that spot where it's like, you know what, I'm invested, and this is it, I'm gonna figure this out, I've got someone to support me, you keep going forward. If you had a crutch and you still weren't quite ready to change and you were doubting if you should do this, and forget it, you'll take the path of least resistance every
Agreed.
time.
hmm
Every time. So you were ready. Like when you came to me, I'm like, we're going to do some amazing stuff. And you're like, bring it. That's vital to anybody's success. So I think it's
Agreed.
really important for anybody that's listening. It's okay if you feel like, you know what, I'm not at that crossroad yet. You might have to go through some more experiences to get there, So it's fine.
Agreed. So like I said earlier, I mean, I cliche, you got to be sick and tired of being sick and tired. You have to be, this is it.
Absolutely.
I'm either going in all in or don't do it at all,
Yeah.
because it was a challenge in 12 weeks.
Mhm.
mentally, emotionally.
Mhm.
But the end result, I'd go through it again. In the
Yeah,
beginning,
then
I
no.
knew
Mhm.
I needed more than 12 weeks. I said I knew I was going
Yeah.
to pay for two 12-week sessions. I just knew it, right?
Mhm.
And then at the end of 12 weeks, I was like, wait, we're over? Like, I didn't want to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed the weekly conversations. Even today, I'm like, oh, I miss them. Like,
I know.
and I know,
They're
and I
great.
felt like, yes, I felt like you're like my mentor who retired. Last meeting, he said, you don't need me anymore. You know, I've done what I'm supposed to do. You know what to do now. And I was just like, well, that's what she told me too. But you get so, you're like, well, wait.
We're still here, don't worry. But I understand what you mean. It's like you get so used to the weekly, touching base, and it's like you grow
Yeah,
such a close relationship. So anything different beyond that's like, I miss you. And it's
exactly. And
always like that. It's always like that when somebody is done with their first 12 weeks and we get into kind of the re-enrollment segment. It's like it always feels like forever between, when we touch base. I mean, it isn't, but just because we're so used to being like every week,
mhm.
and very, in very depth, conversation. So I'm not
Yes.
going anywhere, sister. Don't worry.
Oh, I know. And I was telling my son yesterday, I'm going through a lot of transition, so I'm really focused on not repeating my old habits because I have
Mhm.
my 18-year-old dropping off at college Friday, which is the most horrific experience that any mother has to go through. I'm
Aw.
proud of him, but the
Yeah.
emotion is it's more some days than I can bear.
Aw.
So it's that. Like I told you, my mentor just retired. Um, there's just all of this transition going on, and I'm like, oh my God, my life.
Yeah, but you know what? It's
It's
like,
all good stuff, though. Not what I'm saying. It's all good, but
yeah, it is.
it's
It's all
emotion, and my
amazing.
trigger was
Yeah.
emotion, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, don't inhale the cheesecake. Don't go to the chocolate. Don't. This is all good stuff. One day at a time. One thing at a
Absolutely.
time. Um, so yeah, I knew I needed two sessions, but clearly I didn't. Just like I'm ready for the group. I equated it to my son yesterday. I said it's like those eagles who push their young out of the nest. They make them go fly. They're like, nope, you're done, and they're either gonna sink or they're gonna learn how to flap their wings. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And 9 times out of
Absolutely.
10, what do? They flap their wings and they go on, right?
Right.
Um, so I feel like a little bird that has been pushed out the nest, and I'm trying to figure out how to flap my wings.
But you know what? You know, and I know you know how to flap and you know how to fly, okay? There's nothing new, and this is important for anyone that's listening. There's nothing new that you have everything that you need. All you're going to do is continue to practice and continue to gather more insights, learn even more
Mhm.
about yourself, with new experiences. It's less thinking, more doing, in terms of just living, which is
Yes,
really
I'm living
exciting,
the greatest life. I don't
You
think I've
are.
lived this. So someone asked me. This is a very good point I want to make. Someone asked me, like, when was the last time I was this happy? And I don't remember what was previous in that conversation. And it took me a while to figure it out, right?
Wow.
So for everybody, I'm 44, here in turn 45 in September. And then once I figured out the answer, I said, I haven't felt this way since high school.
Wow,
High
really?
school. That's 30 years almost.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
look, people are going to I can relate. There's so many other people that can relate because here's what happens with many of us again in this journey. We all can share so many similar stories. You're a mom. You raised your son. That's where you invested
Mhm.
your time, and you also invested
Mhm.
your energy into supporting your son and providing for your son. Like that was your mission, and you succeeded. I mean, you are amazing at what you do with work. You're a leader at work. You've been an amazing mom. Your son's now off to college. But there's a lot of you that was sacrificed along the way, and that's where a lot of people lose their identity, whether it's with work
Mhm.
or an experience or athletics. We've got a lot of athletes that invest every single
Right.
piece of their being, into the sport, and it's like well, who am I? And so
Yes.
we see a lot of these symptoms in our eating. And through this process, we're able to explore kind of that rediscovery process for many of us that lose ourselves. I'm very open about my history, and I lost my identity as going through my athletic career, and I
Mhm.
got out, and then I invested myself into work because it was like I felt like I was competitive. I wanted to hustle, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden it was like, why am I crying every weekend?
Yes.
Why am I eating every weekend? I felt
Yes.
so lonely. It was very lonely. I was very,
Mhm.
very sad. But I'm glad I went through that, because then I was able to help you guys, and go through my own process and research, and here we are. So
Yes.
I'll do it all over again, if I had to. So that is amazing, Lainey. Honestly, I mean, I appreciate
Yes.
you sharing
Well,
that. That's a 30 year. It's 30 years, man. Wow.
it was 30
Wow.
years. Yeah, that was the last time I felt like this. Just
Wow.
free. I feel light. I don't know if anybody can understand that. Just feel
Mhm.
light. And yes, it is rediscovery.
Yeah.
Figuring out what I like, what I don't like. I think remember we were talking. I was like, I took kind of a less stressful job to help my son get into college and that type of thing, and it's time to, figure out what's next. And I struggled. I didn't like anything. I didn't want to do anything. But now I'm like, wait, I like this and I like this, and it's eye
Yeah.
opening now. You're going towards something, or I am. I'm going towards something that I know I like, and I don't care what people think. That was a big thing for
Mhm.
me. Doing what others want you to do and not following your own heart and your true path leads to all this other stuff that we're trying to battle, not
Yep.
eating the right foods, overeating, and that type of thing. You got to follow your heart despite what people
Mhm.
think.
And you know what? Beautifully said, Lainey. Let's actually wrap it up right on that note. It's perfect. Don't go anywhere, though, Lainey. I'm just going to go ahead and end this interview, and we'll talk after. But I wanted to thank everybody who's listening in here today. I really do hope that you were inspired by Lainey and her story and her journey. And I hope that this helps you put one more foot in front of the other when it comes to your journey and overcoming your relationship with food, the struggles that you may have going on with binge eating, emotional eating, restricting. Think about food all the time. Know that there's a way out. It doesn't have to take forever, and it doesn't have to be painful. So I'm Shelby McDaniel, here to help you in my Diet Freedom Mentoring Program, signing off.